If you've played BALATRO, you know that jokers are an essential part of the game. They multiply your scores, create synergies, and help you overcome the increasingly difficult blinds. But what if you were to take all of that away and try to beat the game without a single joker? I have completed almost every BALATRO challenge, but one still stands my way. The rules are quite simple. No jokers appear in the shop, and everything that could possibly give you a joker is removed. This first run started like most. For the first blind, the best strategy I found was to go for a flush with high scoring cards. This gives just enough to beat the blind in one hand and pocket the change from the leftover hands. Then there's the first shop, which is usually the decider of how the run will go, whether it's a planet card that levels up a certain hand, or a tarot card that can help me hone my deck. However, with an unlucky celestial pack, I opted to go for a 4-of-a-kind planet card, which I wouldn't end up using for the rest of the run. I got by the second blind with a couple of flushes as usual, having to use one of my hands as an extra discard, a strategy I would have to rely on quite frequently. To combat this, I was able to get a voucher in the next shop, which grants me an extra discard. Vouchers are likely the most important upgrades you can get, and that's why I rarely skip the first 2 blinds, so I can have an extra shot at another voucher. The first boss blind is usually the last blind you can get through without any upgrades, and I managed to get by with one hand remaining. The first ante went pretty smoothly, but I didn't get any upgrades to steer the run in a particular direction. Luckily, the next shop had a spectral pack, which is about the best way to hone your deck. With a mediocre selection of cards, I opted to go for a sigil, which converts all of your cards held in hand to a single suit. This makes flushes, which are the best hand to go for without jokers, much easier to achieve. I moved on to the next blind, still with no enhanced cards or a leveled up flush, and noticed the boss blind. Start with 0 discards. This is arguably the worst boss blind when you're playing a specific hand type and don't have any jokers. So I needed to get lucky in the next shop. It offered a choice between an Arcana pack and a Celestial pack. I went for the Celestial pack, hoping to find an upgrade for flushes, and luckily there was a Jupiter card which upgrades my flushes with +2 malt and +15 chips. With this upgrade, I was able to make it through the next blind with a single hand remaining. The next shop provided me with another Jupiter card, and I moved on to the boss blind, hoping that the extra diamond cards from the spectral pack would carry me through. With a few lucky draws, I was able to play 2 flushes and just make it by thanks to the Jupiter cards. The next ante went pretty smoothly, with a few more Jupiter cards and a blue seal from another spectral pack putting me in a strong position with a level 6 flush in a deck with plenty of diamonds. Feeling confident, I decided to skip the next blind as I had $0 and the tag made everything in the shop free. I likely would have failed this big blind, but a lucky card triggered for +20 malt, getting me just over the requirement. The shop didn't offer anything special, just another upgrade to flushes and a death card which I used to copy my blue seal. The next boss blind was the hook, which discards 2 random cards after each hand. This is one of the more difficult boss blinds when you're trying to play as many hands as possible. However, with my deck now loaded with diamonds, I was able to play 4 flushes and get just over 10,000 chips. I had finally made it to ante 5 out of 8, which was my best attempt so far. But with barely making it over the last blind and the exponential scaling ahead, I was going to need some good shops to push further. Unfortunately, with a couple of unlucky Celestial and Arcana packs, the run was ended by the big blind on ante 5. I showed that run to give an idea on how most runs went and the common strategies I used. But this next run was quite a bit different. It started unusually as I skipped the first 2 blinds for an investment tag, which would give me $25 upon completing the boss blind. This was crucial since not having enough economy jokers to get money early on made it very hard to build a strong deck. I also picked up a double tag, which could come in handy later on. All I had to do now was beat the first boss blind, which luckily was the Psychic. This blind forces you to play 5 cards, but that wouldn't affect me since I only play flushes early on. I was able to play a spade flush pretty quickly, then fish for a diamond flush, which I got on my second to last hand. Just under the requirement, I finished it off with a pair. Wait, this wasn't the right run. Okay, this is the actual attempt now. It started off normally and I opted not to skip the first blind and finished it off with a single high card flush, leaving me with exactly $10 from the next shop. This allowed me to purchase the clearance sale voucher, which would dramatically help the economy for the rest of the run, as you have to buy a lot of arcane and celestial card packs, and this voucher would make everything 25% off. I then skipped the next blind as it would provide me with 2 free tarot cards, and I had $0 left. With the Arcana pack, I decided to make another ace with the death card and also picked up a strength card and a devil card to add to my consumables. The boss blind was the Psychic again, which I wasn't too worried about this time. I made it through with a couple of flushes and created 2 more aces along the way with my strength card. In the next shop, I had just enough money to buy a tarot card and 2 celestial packs. The tarot card got me another strength card to create 2 more aces and a chariot card, which allowed me to make a steel card. As for the celestial packs, the first one didn't have a Jupiter card, which was likely the reason this run did so well. Otherwise, I would have gone for flushes again. Instead, I decided to go for a Mars card, which upgrades 4 of a kind, a hand I never tried to go for before. But with the extra aces, I figured I'd have a good chance of consistently getting them. The next celestial pack didn't have another Mars card, so I moved on to the next blind, which had another investment tag. Combined with the clearance sale voucher, this would allow me to get a lot more upgrades than I normally could at this point. The big blind was very easy, as I managed to get a full hand of aces after using my strength card to create 2 more, and I finished the hand with a single 5 of a kind. The next shop had 2 celestial packs, both of which luckily had Mars cards, allowing me to get it up to level 4 before even finishing ante 2. With these upgrades, the boss blind went down to a single 4 of a kind. Now I had a lot of money to spend, and the shop was looking good. I created a second gold ace with the tarot card and made a lucky ace which would come in clutch later on. I also picked up a death card and a copy of the Fool, which allowed me to create 2 more aces. In the next blind, I copied one of my gold aces, leaving me with 3 total, which would help a lot with economy, and opted to save the other death card to help me get a 4 of a kind if I was ever unable to find one. I then picked up another level for 4 of a kind and got another ace from a card pack. The rest of the ante went pretty smoothly, and I was able to get 4 of a kind up to level 6, enhance some of my aces, while also being left with $57 to spend thanks to a hermit card and my gold aces. Ante 4's shop started pretty strong with a paintbrush voucher giving me extra hand size, making 4 of a kinds even easier to find. I also got another level for 4 of a kind along with a blue seal card from the card pack, which would help me level up 4 of a kind even further. The rest of ante 4 was more of the same. I was able to get some more enhancements and beat every blind with just a single 4 of a kind. I also got very lucky and earned a lot of extra funds from a couple of hermit cards. Entering ante 5, I had 14 aces in my deck and a level 9 4 of a kind. The small blind had an 11,000 chip requirement, and with a single 4 of a kind and some bonus cards, I scored just over 14,000 chips. The big blind and boss blind fell to the same fate, both losing to a single hand as well. I was now on ante 6, which was my best attempt thus far. I was well off, but I needed a lot more upgrades to meet the over 100,000 chip requirement for the final boss. But with this next shop, it might be possible. With another upgrade to clearance sale voucher, everything was now 50% off and I had plenty to spend. In the next blind, I turned one of my aces into a glass card, which might just be how I level up my hand. Each time a glass card is scored, it gives 2x malt, and combined with the steel cards, this would give me a new high score. But I couldn't use it just yet and risk it breaking before ante 8. For now, I had to focus on making it to ante 8 while using as few glass cards as possible. On ante 6, I wasn't quite leveled up enough to beat the boss blind in a single hand anymore, but with all the aces in my deck, I could easily play multiple hands to get by. I wasn't too lucky with the next couple of shops and burned a lot of money on rerolls, with the only notable pickups being a level 13 4 of a kind and an extra 2 glass cards. At this point, I had 20 aces in my deck, theoretically meaning I could play a 4 of a kind with every single hand. Combined with a boss blind that didn't affect me much, I was confident I could beat ante 7. And I was right to be confident, beating the ante 7 boss with a score of over 100,000 chips, which I thought was enough to beat the final boss. Until I checked the boss blind for ante 8, and it was the one thing I didn't want. Violet Vessel. This boss triples the score requirement, meaning I would have to score 300,000 chips to beat it. I wasn't confident about that, but I still had a few more shops to prepare. And in this first shop, there was the one thing that could help me. A voucher I usually pass over as it had never come in handy before, but this was the exact thing I needed this time. It allowed me to have one shot at re-rolling the boss blind. Now, you might think it's risky, but because everything related to jokers is removed in this challenge, there are only 2 possible final boss blinds. The Violet Vessel and the Cerulean Bell, which forces one card to be selected each hand. This was much easier to deal with since most of my deck was aces at this point. So I re-rolled the boss blind and it was basically a victory lap from there. I had scored over 100,000 chips before and had no problem doing it again. I made it through the small and big blinds with ease and made it to the boss blind of ante 8, the final step to this challenge. I had 24 aces in my deck, a level 23 4 of a kind, and could finally use my glass cards, and I didn't even need them, as I pulled 3 steel cards into my hand, each providing 1.5x multi, and the boss blind forced me to select an ace. So I played one final hand. So, to answer the question, is it possible to beat BALATRO without jokers? Yes, it absolutely is. In fact, I was able to get a lot further than just ante 8. Using my glass cards and a few more upgrades, I made it all the way to the final boss of ante 11 with a high score of over 8 million chips. This challenge, though difficult, was a lot of fun, and it was fascinating to see how far you can get without using jokers. Anyways, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please do consider subscribing, as this video took a lot of work and I have plenty more ideas for challenges to try in the future.